Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with my second layout using the design team cheeky.studio embellishments that we got for the month of February. So this month, cheeky.studio, the design team from cheeky.studio are doing a collaboration with Stick It Down sketches. So as you saw at the beginning, I showed you the sketches. So they had provided a couple of sketches and also a file that we could cut out, and I decided to do the 2-page sketch. I haven't done a 2-page in a long time, and this was with these ephemeras, which is the Ahoy ephemera from cheeky.studio. I just knew exactly what pictures I wanted to do, so I went into my old photo stash. This is 2005, and we used to go to a family camp every year. And I have tons of photos, and I decided to dig them out, and the sketch had 6 photos, so I thought, perfect, I'll be able to use a lot of photos. So the first thing I did is, you saw I took my white cardstock and I took my T-square ruler and I divided it in 16 squares of 3 by 3. And the sketch had, it looked like maybe pattern papers there. What I decided to do is I'm going to do a combination of both. I'm going to do some stamping using some frames, and I showed you all the stamps, and then I also showed you all the inks that I'm going to be using, and a combination of papers. And the pattern papers are an old collection from Crate Paper. And so I'm going to start off, I'm going to use some of these stamp sets, and they're like little frames. So I'm going to take a block and I'm going to use the inks that I decide to use. A lot of the inks are from Hero Arts. So I'm just going to just willy-nilly stamp some frames here and there. Not really sure. I kind of took some pictures out and kind of laid them where I thought my picture would go, comparing it to the sketch. And then I kind of decided where I could put some of the frames. Now I know some of these frames are going to be covered up a little bit. Some of them I'm going to put some embellishment clusters with it. Some of them I'm going to put some words in. Now this stamp set here, I'm going to stamp it with my Memento ink, because in one of them I'm going to do my journaling, although I stamp it out twice, but the second one I'm going to end up putting just embellishments. Now before I go any further, while I'm doing that, I'll let you know that all the information for the Stick It Down sketches and cheeky.studio, everything will be in the description box below, so you can check them out and check out, you know, for the Stick It Down challenge, they have a ton of sketches on their site, and also cheeky.studio for these ephemeras and a whole lot more. Their ephemeras are really packed. There's usually between 50 and 60 pieces with each ephemera, and they're a nice cardstock thickness, and I really like how I can use them on the layout. So this is the pattern paper. Now I have to say, it kind of hurt my heart a little bit to cut in to some 12 by 12s to make 2 3/4. Actually, it was about 2 5/8 by 2 5/8 squares, because 2 3/4 I found was a little too big. I didn't want the squares to touch each other so much, so I cut a whole bunch. I chose a few different pattern papers, but one thing I decided this year was I'm not going to look at my pattern paper and say, oh, I could use it for something else. Whenever I have, you know, whenever I'm doing a layout and I'm going to be putting pictures on a layout, I'm just going to use the pattern paper and not worry whether that's my only sheet of that pattern paper, because you know, we all have so many pattern papers. So now I'm going to take some ink and I'm going to ink the edges of all the squares with gathered twigs, and then I'm going to stick down all those squares before I start with the pictures or before I start with any of the embellishments, because that's a whole lot of square. and I don't want stuff to move around. So there was one little spot that I didn't cut a piece of paper for, and I thought, you know what, just take another stamp set and just glue it down. It's going to be mostly covered up by a photo, so I wasn't too worried that it was the same one as the one that's right next to it. And anyway, it's across the page. Now, I stayed true to the sketch for some stuff, and then I just tweaked it and just fixed it to what I wanted it. So I didn't want to do all squares of pattern paper. So I thought, you know what, another thing I want to do this year is use a little bit more of my stamps. So I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of stamping and a little bit of pattern paper just to make up that sketch for the background. And then where I had made all those lines, I'm just taking an eraser and I'm just erasing those. Now I could have done two things. Depending on a different layout, I could have left the lines there and taken my ruler and taken a black pen and done the stitches so that the lines would have been really defined, like I would have really seen the grid. But for this time I decided to, erase them all, but that's something that you certainly could do. So now I'm choosing my 6 pictures, and this is a family camp that we went to for, I would say, 8 years to 10 years in a row, like a long time, quite a few years in a row. And it was a family camp, and it was always in August, and we went with our best friends and quite a few people from our church. So it was, filled with friends, and it was a family camp, so you brought your kids, and the kids absolutely loved it. And that year, these pictures, you're going to see at the end, I'm going to put 2006, and I don't know why I put 2006, because I knew from the beginning it was 2005, but for some reason I just put 2006. I fixed it since, you'll see in the pictures. But this was in 2005, so that was the year that my oldest graduated, and that summer she was a counselor at that camp for the entire summer. So when we went to the family camp, we got to see her, for the whole weekend. So that was fun. So I wanted to scrap some of these pictures, and what is perfect about this, the last picture at the bottom right, the one I'm touching right now, is about them reading to us about the treasure hunt. And every year we would divide up into teams. There would be like 100 people, over 100 people that would go to that family camp. And so we divide up into teams, and then we would follow the clues and do the treasure hunt. So these pictures were perfect for these ephemeras. So I decided to not just do those pictures, but a whole bunch of different pictures from that family camp. So now I'm going through the ephemeras, the Ahoy ephemeras, and then there was some flares. I'm going to end up using like 3 or 4 flares. Like one of them has a little like treasure in it. That's the flare. And then there was also an ephemera that was a little treasure. So perfect for a treasure hunt. There was a little treasure map and a little scroll thing. And that's how they would, take out our clues. And, we would have little maps that would be all rolled up. So it was just perfect. I decided to cut down the pictures though, because I didn't, I spent quite a bit of time making that background, so I didn't want to cover the background too much. And a lot of those pictures, I chose pictures that even though I cut around it, I wasn't cutting stuff that, really mattered. I kept the biggest part of the photo. You can still see the gist of the photo, even though I've cut them down. And that way I'm able to see the photos. And when I laid down the photos, I made sure that to make some flow to the page, I made sure that each picture touched more than 2 things. So if you look at the very first picture to the left, my son on the horse, it's touching 4 elements. And then the next picture is also touching 4 elements. So it's adding continuity. Now in the sketch it said to put a long title. Well, for me, I wanted to use that little acrylic place that said happy place, and that for us it was totally a happy place. And then in the next square, I put the name of the camp, or the name of the place that we would go to. It's called Caton's Island, and it's about a 2.5 hour drive from where we live. And then one of the little frames, I'm going to put family camp in that. And then each of the little frame, I'm going to put something that we do, such as horseback riding, friends, fun. What else did I put? I put, a whole bunch of different things that we did. So it kind of, even though I didn't put all that in the journaling, you can kind of have a feel for all that stuff. Now, that picture of my son, when he was younger, he used to love to pick up sticks and walk with them and climb up on rocks. So I just thought he looked like one of those little pirates. So I just put that little pirate next to him. So I could have used stickers to do all of, the words. But at that point, I think I had been, this layout took me about 2 hours. And so I just wanted it to be, kind of over. So I just wrote it down. So I'm writing down my journaling. I wrote down family camp. And that's pretty much going to complete this layout. So again, I just want to remind you that this month we are doing a collaboration with Stick It Down Sketches. So if you want to go check them down below, and also check out Cheeky.Studio. And don't forget, if you use Nicole Jones 911, you get 10% off your order. So don't forget to put that in the coupon code and you'll get a discount. So that's it. That's going to be it for me. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. There's all kinds of pictures at the end of each of the embellishment clusters. So stay tuned for that. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit subscribe. If you're enjoying these videos, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, and maybe leave me a comment down below. And I want to thank you so much for watching again. Talk to you soon. Bye.